Welcome to our red-eyed, few-holds-barred post-midterm chat-a-thon. President Obama, who is not a political pundit, just wrapped up a ritualistic marathon press conference at the White House to talk about yesterday's election and his future relationships with the majority Republicans on Capitol Hill. So just how might he win over the incoming Senate Majority Leader and returning Speaker of the House, you ask?
If the way we are talking about issues isn't working, then I'm going to try some different things. If the ways that we're approaching the Republicans in Congress isn't working, I'm going to try different things, whether it's having a drink with Mitch McConnell or letting John Boehner beat me again at golf, or or weekly press conferences. I don't know if that would be effective, but whatever I think might make a difference in this, I'm going to be trying out up until my last day in office.
So that was his last answer in a press conference that lasted well over an hour. Yeah. That answer had a little bit of humor and a little bit of verve to it. Yeah. Overall, I would say most of the press conference did not have that. Yes, that was how did he do overall, including that answer?
That was the kind of the exception that proved the rule. I was struck by there was kind of a rote, kind of perfunctory quality to the whole thing. I mean, really the beginning of the press conference, both his prepared statement and the first few questions, he looked like he would rather have been almost anywhere else than doing this press conference.
He did not seem to you like a man fighting to save his presidency?
No, he did not. He did not. And, and a lot of Republicans will listen. He said he heard the American voters, but he also said he heard the two-thirds who didn't vote, which kind of suggests that he's kind of minimizing the importance of what happened last night. He certainly didn't say, I take some share of the blame. He certainly didn't say, I'm going to change course in a dramatic way. I mean, he sort of opened the door to a conversation that will happen later in the week, but it was not like, I get it, I need to do something different.
Let's be honest, we fancy ourselves as people who can understand elite opinion and elite judgment. I don't think there's a single elite, press, Republican, Democrat, anybody who would listen to that thing or read news coverage of it and say he advanced his cause. He's talked about waiting to hear from the Republicans, so maybe this was a holding action, but there is nothing in there that's going down in history at this dramatic moment with 2 years left.
I mean, on some level, the proof will be in the pudding, but it is the case, again, not just in our reading of elite opinion. We also read Twitter. And I would say, the media consensus, bipartisan, left and right, was pretty skeptical that the president got anything particular done in terms of advancing his agenda, advancing his goals, and setting himself up in a better place than he was yesterday.
You know what I said? I've never ended a segment this way. Only time will tell.
Indeed. Yeah. That's a very cliche for the win. Okay. With big wins in Congress, John Boehner is sipping a tall glass of I told you so, and Mitch McConnell, too, is quaffing from the metaphorical cauldron of Pappy Van Winkle. Here's what he told the press this afternoon in Louisville, Kentucky, about his plans for the immediate future and dealing with President Obama.
We're going to pass legislation. Some of it he may not like, but we're going to function. This gridlock and dysfunction can be ended. It can be ended by having a Senate that actually, that actually works.
Mark, is the new majority leader to be ready to be the new majority leader?
To paraphrase Donald Rumsfeld, you go seek compromise not with the new majority leader you want, but with the new majority leader you're going to get. I actually think, although Mitch McConnell, like John Boehner, is an inside player. He doesn't have a great outside game. That was a marathon press conference by McConnell, too.
My God.
But he's never going to be a great communicator. No. But he is doing one thing that I think does give people who are bullish on the prospect of compromise a hope, which is he keeps referring to the fact that he's been the deal maker.
Right.
He keeps saying, when there have been breakthroughs with this administration, I've been the one to strike them, usually with Joe Biden. Right. People have this notion that he and Biden are friends. They're not friends. They do not like each other, but they have done deals.
Yes.
And I think the fact that he keeps talking about being a deal maker, and he did again today, is a good sign that he's ready to do some stuff in the short term and the medium term.
Well, there was also a kind of an explicit or implicit rebuke to Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz has been out very loudly saying, we shouldn't pass legislation, we shouldn't work with President Obama, we need to investigate President Obama, and we need to repeal Obamacare. McConnell came out and said, we're not going to shut down the government, which was really like a poke in the eye to Ted Cruz. And he said, we're not going to default on our debt, we're not going to do any of that kind of stuff under me. We'll see what he actually can get done, because it's still a complicated, fractious Republican conference, especially over there in the House and the people who like Ted Cruz and his style. But it looks to me like McConnell wants to put President Obama's feet to the fire, not necessarily compromise with him, but pass legislation, get past the grid gridlock of Harry Reid and say, let's put bills on the president's desk and make him either sign them or not.
He's on the cover of Time magazine. I predict he will not be discussing his favorite character on Downton Abbey anytime soon.
Although I'd like to hear that.
It would. And I also predict he's not going to be a guy who gets this big new job that he's always wanted and have it go to his head. He is going to be the same Mitch McConnell he's always been, which may well serve the country's purposes right now because he knows the art of the deal.
And I also think he's an arch establishmentarian, and he is going to be looking towards 2016. Republicans, even the ones in Congress, know that for Republicans really to drive their agenda, they have to have the White House, and he's going to have that in mind going forward.
He doesn't like messy. He likes regular order,
right.
The way Trent Lott, his predecessor, liked re-ironing his shirts when he got them back from the dry cleaner. This guy wants to restore some order to Capitol Hill, and that could be good for those who'd like to see compromise. All right, last night there were hundreds of winners. Those include Tom Cotton, Fox News, the Koch brothers, and there were just as many losers, Mark Udall, MSNBC, and the Charlotte Hornets. So John and I each picked one winner and one loser who we don't think are getting enough attention so far from last night's results in Election Day. John, you go first. Who is your under-discussed winner of the evening?
I'm going to choose a metaphorical winner, and that metaphorical winner is my good friend and colleague and ally, Snoop Dogg, great advocate of marijuana in general and marijuana legalization in particular. Marijuana legalization on the ballot in Alaska. It passed on the ballot in Oregon. It passed there, too. There was the exit poll last night, asked people around the country whether they would like to see marijuana legalized in their states or not. 49% said yes, 47% said no. I think, not only do we have 2 more states doing the right and proper thing, legalizing marijuana, but I think we now can see that this is like gay marriage. Within 10 or 12 years, going to be legal in every state in the union. That'll make Snoop Dogg happy and me happy,
You picked
too.
Snoop, but you could have picked the entire borough of Brooklyn.
Yes, indeed.
My winner, John Boehner. He now has a partner and an ally in Mitch McConnell. They get along pretty well. Boehner would like to be part of getting stuff done, both for the good of the country and because he wants to have the reputation of somebody who can make things work as Speaker. And now a lot of the pressure's off of him. He's no longer in opposition, 2 against 1, Reid and the president against him. Now he's got an ally in Mitch McConnell. I think that's good for him.
Okay, fair enough.
All right. All right, so let's now talk about your loser of the night.
My loser of the night is very specific and not metaphorical, actually practical. It's Scott Brown, the losing Republican Senate candidate in New Hampshire, on a night when in every contested Senate race the Republicans won, whether they were challengers, incumbents, in any given case. Scott Brown's the only one to lose. He lost up there in New Hampshire.
And if he'd won, he would have been the kingmaker for the New Hampshire primary.
Indeed, and there he is. He went up there, moved himself up, changed states, drove his Winnebago up there,
right.
and now he can't go back and run in Massachusetts. He can't really run again in New Hampshire, having been tagged as a carpetbagger. The only option for him now is Nova Scotia. I think he'd make a great member of the Canadian Parliament.
All right, my loser is Harry Reid. Not only is he no longer going to be a majority leader, his party was wiped out in his home state, including losing the lieutenant governor's race, which means the current governor, popular governor Brian Sandoval, is now freed up to run against Reid if Reid does run for re-election. Yeah. He also now loses his leverage over the White House because as the minority leader, they'll still talk to him, but now the big deals are going to be done with the president and McConnell.
Do you think there's going to be a contest for minority leader?
I don't.
You don't?
I'll be in that job. But the other thing is, you look at the morning papers, he is at war now with the White House, with the blame game about what happened. Disastrous for everybody involved, and I think that
just to be explicit about that, people in his office openly quoted in those stories trashing the White House. Yes.
He now is going to have to adjust to a new reality, and I have to say one thing about Senator Reid: a lot of good traits. I'm not sure he's the world's best adjuster currently to new reality.
That's absolutely fair. Okay, as we all know, today is the de facto start of the 2016 presidential campaign, which means 2 things: the Mark here has already got a room on hold for the next 14 months at the fantabulous Des Moines Marriott.
It's not a suite, though; it's a standard.
It's a standard, yeah. So you say. And there are already some winners and losers in that presidential contest upcoming, too. Mark, we're going to do winners and losers again. Tell me who your winner for 2016 as a result of last night is.
The chairman of the Republican Governors Association, Chris Christie. Yeah. He didn't win every one. He didn't win Connecticut, didn't win Colorado. But by winning in Massachusetts, by winning in Maryland, by winning in Illinois, and then holding Florida, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and some others, he gets chits, not just with the politicians, but with the donors. Yeah. The donors who gave big to the RNC, raising tons of money, now said, we bet on Christie, we got a great return on our investment. I think a lot of them, depending on who's in the field, will be Christie money people. That's a huge win.
I have been as critical of Chris Christie as anyone, but it's kind of amazing, given how distracted he's been over this last year with the Bridgegate scandal and its fallout and all the investigations. He still managed to put in a lot of time, a lot of miles as RGA chairman. And he came up Trump. Okay, so my winner, and this is a guy who actually won a race, John Kasich, a guy who we both agree doesn't get nearly enough attention as a potential Republican presidential candidate, won his race in Ohio by 64-33. if my math is right, it's a 31-point margin. A 31-point margin in one of
the swingiest of swing states.
It's certainly one of the most important presidential battleground states. I mean, there's no way in which, if you just put aside the Metallica T-shirt or the mustard stains and the ADD, if you put aside all those things on the merits after last night, John Kasich has to be considered a serious presidential candidate now, just on the merits.
All right, my loser from last night in the 16 context, Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, spell this out exactly, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
The party's now in disarray. Hillary Clinton and her team are so cautious. They overthink, they overanalyze everything. This gives them a lot of new complexity to deal with. I just think whatever plan they had about how to proceed after the midterms in terms of a potential announcement, considering even whether to run, it's all thrown up in the air because no one expected the result they got. It means distancing themselves from President Obama becomes more complicated. Dealing with what the Democratic agenda should be is more complicated. Having to figure out, is she a candidate of compromise with the ascendant Republicans? There's just a lot of complexity. And again, this is an operation, while it has some strengths, they do not deal well. Just as Harry Reid does not deal well with adjustment, this operation does not deal well with complexity and things that threaten her.
And my loser is, I agree with that, but I'll say the loser in the other party is Ted Cruz. And I think I mentioned him earlier. He's now in a marginalized position in this new Senate. Well, he's not going to be Mitch McConnell's friend. That position has been taken by Rand Paul. You know, as if Mitch McConnell does try to pass legislation, that's not going to help Cruz. Now, he could be the guy who's the bomb thrower. But what the big message of last night, I think, was that the Tea Party has been not vanquished, but really severely undermined. And if you read the coverage today, a lot of Republican establishmentarians, elected officials, strategists coming out and using words like the wackos have finally been beaten back. They're back in their cage, et cetera, et cetera. We never thought a Tea Party.
Certain they're not talking about Ted Cruz.
A Tea Party candidate was never going to win the Republican nomination, but it's less likely now that any associated Tea Party person will get the nomination tonight to now after last night, I think.
You betcha.